All right. Hello, hello. We are live, hopefully. Let me know you can see me and hear me okay. And let's make sure I'm fully zoomed out. There we go. I need to report that as a weird feature. It's kind of one of the few things I don't like about Ecamm Live is if you scroll over their window, you can zoom the screen in just by, in the magic mouse or magic pad. It's so delicate. I should be able to disable that. Anyway, let's get started. Again, let me know you can hear me and see me in the chat. So what we're going to do today is add yet another task to the Shift Workbench. Hopefully round out the numbers down here. We've got a little blank spot for another task to make it nice and even in our little 3-column layout here. So what we're going to work on is the ability to run kind of a formatter on your test case. And while I was waiting for this to get set up, I basically made a couple fixtures. So let's kind of bring those open, and I think it'll help kind of demonstrate what we're talking about here. So I'm going to go in Test, Fixtures, Tests, and then in here, let's just take a look at this format mixed, for example. And what we have here is just kind of a standard PHP unit test case, but we have something that maybe is might be considered a little bit more of a Laravel convention. It uses this test annotation. It kind of uses this snake case sentencey kind of naming convention as far as the method name and casing goes. And then, we have some other stuff, for example, maybe a snake case, but uses the test prefix instead of the test annotation. And then finally, maybe there's the camel case kind of version, but maybe it uses kind of a mix of a mix of annotation as well as existing annotations too that, we wouldn't want to get rid of. And so I made all sorts of these, again, some that use annotations, some that use kind of the traditional test prefix here and then camel case, some that have the test prefix camel case with an existing annotation. So again, just kind of tried to cover my bases with a lot of different fixtures here. And basically what we'll do is we'll try to pass these some options, some formatting options that we're going to build in this workbench task to make those consistent, right? To make them uniform. And I noticed this in my old code bases, I kind of used to write things more PHP unit, but then as Laravel testing became more of a first class kind of thing, it became more focused within the framework. I think you see a lot of Laravel applications using kind of this syntax. So in my case, for something like Laravel Shift, which is a 5-year-old code base now, almost 6 years old, it's one of those things where I might have a couple mixed conventions in there and I want to kind of take the opportunity to clean them up. So that's what this test case will do. So let's kind of jump in and take a look at the tests again that I wrote. These are all the fixtures, so I think hopefully those make sense. But let's take a peek at the test that I actually set up here. So, and again, if anyone can throw something in the chat, just want to make sure everybody's hearing me, seeing me okay. I changed some of the settings here, so just send me a quick little thumbs up or anything in the chat there. Just want to make sure all is good. I'm assuming people are hearing me, otherwise people would definitely complain, but it always helps to get that reassurance. Okay, so as far as this test case, this is just a format test cases test. It has a subject, and actually this should be shift. So let's fix that real quick. So basically I just mock out that shift facade. If you've watched some previous streams, everything with shift is kind of just in this facade type of object. You could call it a God object if you want, but it's much more akin to something like Carbon if you've used that PHP package before. It's kind of just everything's in this class, all sorts of things I would need to do when I'm automating things. I'm finding files, I'm checking for the contents of files, I'm writing files to disk, I'm checking a Laravel app for the default namespace, things of that nature. All that happens through this shift facade. And then more like Laravel would, I also have a log facade, which allows me to just output things to the system in different levels. So just set these up in the setup. And just a real quick test to kind of start things off. It basically does nothing when no tests are found. So kind of what I'm going to do is basically the way this is going to work is I'm going to scan the test folder for any public functions. And you have to have a public function in there, right? Because that's how PHP unit works. That's just kind of, again, how it works. So if I don't even find any public functions in the tests folder, then you don't really have any test cases for me to scan anyway. So we'll just kind of bail out early. So this should pretty much auto pass right away, more or less. And then I do want to log kind of an event that like no test cases were found. That way you get some information that gets propagated back up to like the back up to the UI, whether you're using the cloud-based Workbench, or we get sent back up to the Workbench Electron desktop app as well. So we'll just kind of send that out as kind of an unmet requirement type thing. Might even end up throwing an exception, I don't know, but we'll start here. And then more importantly, we have this it formats test cases based on the options. So this uses the data provider, and basically what we're going to do is the same exact thing. We're going to find files containing public functions, and in this case we're actually going to return some stuff. So just our example test, and then kind of like a no operations test, a no op. And this is just a way for me to kind of test that I'm actually like looping over those results. So this really does nothing. It just kind of reads that file, returns nothing, and therefore there's going to be no changes to the file. And then finally, we actually get that example test, and in this case, we're going to return the contents of one of our fixtures, in this case, the before fixture, and then we're going to ensure that when we manipulate it and put the file back to disk, it's going to be kind of that after fixture. So there's a lot of different ways you can talk about this, integration test, a fixture test, an end-to-end test, a snapshot test. I've heard some things like this matches that, kind of a point in time, or before and after. So a lot of Shift's tests work that way. I like it this way, especially for an application or a program like Shift, because it allows me to, when I'm supporting Shift, maybe I'll say something like, hey, can you send me your user model? Maybe something's broken in it. Hey, send me your user model. I add it to my test fixtures, and I can immediately see what they're seeing, and now I have a test case that drives out the fix, and I know that that's never going to get broken again. It also creates good information for me to kind of see a code snippet, right? Code speaks louder than words, so that's always pretty nice to be able to see that in action. So yeah, I like those fixtures, and that's really it. And here's kind of that data provider. If you're not familiar with those in PHP unit, I basically pass in an array of arrays. So each one of those subarrays is going to have these three parameters: before, after, and options. So here's where I'm setting each one of those. In this case, when I call format annotations with the option of case camel, then I should ultimately get the format annotations, but with the test cases changed to camel case. And again, I've written a bunch of these. So what we'll probably do is just kind of turn these on and off so we can focus on one at a time, and we'll slowly build out, hopefully, in the next 40 minutes, we'll hopefully build out this entire task so it's ready to be deployed with the next update to the Workbench. So again, just to make things a little easy, let's just kind of start with just one, so we're not getting like a wall of failures. And what we can do is just kind of quickly comment one of those out, and let's start running these. So basically we're going to get an error right away, the fact that we don't even have this test case class. So let's go ahead and make this. So I'm just going to use PHP Storm to kind of help me out there. It's going to create a Shift tasks workbench, format that, and then Shift's source test workbench. Format test cases, that should be good. Let's see if it does it correctly. And I just want to make sure that's in the right location. Yes, it is. Good. Oh, I totally just quit PHP Storm. That was not what I meant to do. Command 1 and Command Q are sometimes a little too close together for me. Actually, these days I work on my laptop a lot more, so like the drawl on that is just a bit shorter, and so I find when I switch to the Mac, I do that every now and then. So let's fire things back up here. Okay, so we have our test cases class, and let's just kind of tweak some things here. So first of all, we're going to extend task, and we want to add those method stubs. In this case, it's just perform, and that should handle everything we need. And then options coming in, we kind of know right away what these options are, but we're not using them yet. So to kind of TDD this, our goal would be to make more or less this first test pass. So let's just kind of, at least for this first test, let's practice a little TDD. So let's change this, whoops, to filter equals. It does nothing when no tests are found, and we still get an exception. Too few arguments are sent to the constructor. So this is going to allow us to drive out that options. So in this case, I would want to send an empty array. I don't care about the options, and let's just kind of see where this goes. Okay, good. So we're a little farther along now. It expected this no method event to be called, but it never was. So let's just do what this test tells us to do, is kind of make this pass. So we can say something like log event and perform, and we'll import that facade, and we'll say no test cases found. And we'll run this again, and we should still have an exception because it never called that shift method for find files containing. So we never searched any test cases. So again, let's just kind of make these tests happy. So let's do shift find files containing, and let's import that. And we're going to say public function. And for now, maybe this will be configurable eventually, but the tests are pretty much always in tests for most PHP project. No matter if you're doing Laravel or something else, it's pretty much going to be in a test folder. So for now, that's not going to be configurable. That's an easy change later. Let's just assume that they're all there. So in this case, we return nothing, and now this actually should end up passing, because if we think about it, we're only really asserting that we called this and we called that. There's nothing in between that matters as far as that test is concerned. But as we drive out the next test, we'll see that it'll make us add some more code, and then those tests together will work to make sure that I'm doing the right thing. And that's why having like kind of a test suite is really nice. You don't have to worry about one test testing everything, because these tests are going to rely on each other. So right now, this code is obviously incomplete. It's obviously broken. Logically, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. But as we drive out this next test, and then we run them together, this entire test class together, we'll see them work and kind of build off each other, where it'd be very, very difficult for you to make all of these pass in unison. Individually, I can make it pass by doing weird things like not setting anything in the constructor and so forth. Okay, let's move on. I'm going to do this one now. And I don't think I have to do the equals. Let's find out. I always forget. No, I don't. Okay. So dataset failed to open stream. Format annotations. I think I called that annotation. Let's fix that real quick. Let's see if that's correct. Format annotation. Okay, well, that's still not right. Let's find out. Format annotation, that's correct. Format annotation, all that's good. Are these in the wrong path? Tests. Let's see, am I wrong here? Test, fixtures, test, format annotation. Let's just cat that out. Okay, I definitely have the wrong path here. Tests, fixtures, tests. Test, fixtures, test, format annotation. Format annotation. Okay, that is incorrect. Let's fix this. So these are all named incorrectly. I'm just going to make a little cheat a little bit here. And let's just say git move those, and let's fix this second bit. Hold on, my comments are in the way. Annotation. Let's take out that annotation. There we go. All right, let's steal that. And let's run these to move those. And now, there we go. That should be better. All right, little typo there in my file names. Let's get back up to that filter and let's see this kind of explode. Okay, great. So now we're not really getting any contents of this no-op file. So let's start writing the code. We can take a few more leaps and bounds here. We kind of know what we're after. Again, we're armed with these tests. So let's start getting a little more serious. So we'll do something like path equals or paths. And then basically if empty paths, we're gonna fail early. And then in the case of failing early, I would want to say that and then just return. There's nothing else to do, right? And so if we go back and now take off this, and we'll run this test specifically, we should see the first one pass, but the second one fail. And we have a risky test. Test did not perform any assertions. Test case data provider. Oh, did I? Oh, that's funny. And this is one of those conventions there where this is actually not a test, but because it's a public function of test case data provider, that's funny. Okay. We need to name this data provider something else. It's actually trying to run it as a test. We'll just call it, I wonder if PHP Storm can rename that. Yes, it can. Fixture data provider. All right. Let's try this again. Okay, our first one's passing, our second one's failing for the same reason. So again, we're seeing those tests work in unison, so I didn't break anything with this potential refactor, so that's good, but I'm still not passing on my other test. So we'll do for each paths as path, and then we want to do that shift, get file contents on path. Let's go ahead and assign that to contents, and let's see where we go. Okay, so now it's basically saying, look, you didn't put the file contents back out, so let's do it. Shift put file contents, path contents. I think that's correct. Path contents, yes it is. Okay, now we're blindly just writing this back, but of course we're gonna start to run into issues because as a snapshot test, again, you're not really driving out as well. You kind of just need to make it all work in order to make this test pass. So this is one of the reasons I've kind of moved away from kind of that micro level of TDD. I'm kind of practicing it at a really high level of just the simple fact that I've kind of wrote a test first and thought it out, and then I'm kind of just making all those tests pass. So technically speaking, probably not very TDD, but that's okay. I've done it enough where I'm comfortable and feel comfortable kind of skipping some of those steps. But again, if you're just starting out, you could drive this out in other ways where it wasn't a fixture per se. You could, make sure that you're checking those contents along the way, or even just, doing some like print R type stuff, just to kind of push yourself in that direction. But now what we want to do is basically, we need to kind of check the options and make changes. So what that really means is like if case is set, then make all then change all methods cases, right? And then basically if you have style is set, then add/remove annotation and update methods. So just in kind of writing out this bit here, I could kind of already tell that I would actually want to check the style first, because then I could rely on the fact that I would, not need to update the methods. I could maybe rely on this to handle any changes to those method names. It really shouldn't matter the order, but it just might be something where, you know, we kind of test that out in different ways. So, but this is really what we want to do. That's what this means. So really, we're getting closer to code here. So let's kind of start crafting some of this out. So let's do something like if this case, so is set. So if it's set, then we basically would want to rename the methods, right? So we could do something like this, rename methods. All right. And then kind of same thing here. And again, I'm really just turning this pseudocode into maybe code that maybe stays, maybe not. It's just kind of like a naive approach. I'm just breaking this up and turning this into something. And I keep kind of playing this on until I get to where I need to be. So like, let's say something like if this style is set, then I would basically say this, you know, update. You could really call this update, I did it again, look at that, annotations. All right, and then finally, this would be contents and contents, and then ultimately I would just put those contents back out to the system. So let's go ahead and make these because we know that's going to break. So right now I could just return contents, which kind of means that I need contents to be passed in here. So there's that, and then contents, and then you know what? I'm probably going to need like methods to be passed in here too. So, and this is probably going to need the same exact thing. So let's kind of drive this out. So let's finish this one. Methods, methods. And let's go ahead and type in some of these. This is going to return a string, obviously. And then it gets a string and returns a string. And then methods are going to be an array. This is going to be an array of all the methods that are in the file. So we just need to kind of clean those up a little bit. And then finally, let's go ahead and make, it doesn't know what methods it's, of course. So let's kind of make this one as well. And again, we know that's an array. We know this is a string. And right now, this is just going to return contents. And our goal is to really just kind of make this pass. I'm considering this a bit of a refactoring step. Sorry, not make it pass. I just want to be able to see the same error even though I'm kind of adding a lot of code here. So for now, let's just say methods equal nothing. And this should run without any different exception. That's kind of what I'm after. Good. So while you couldn't really call that a refactor step, I'm really just kind of, again, building out a lot of this code because of that snapshot style or that fixture style of a test. Okay, let's switch gears for a second before we drive these out and talk about this style in this case. We know they come in as options, and that's an array. And then basically we'd want to assign these based on those options that came in. So we could do something here where it's just like this, style equals options style, whoops, style, or null in that case. And then we could do same thing with case. And let's go ahead and add these properties. Cool. And it's not really mixed. It would be a string or null. And same thing here. It's not really mixed. It'll be a string or null. And it seems, this is nice for like a shorthand, the null coalesce, but like, yeah, you could arguably make this a little bit cleaner. But I also don't like the mixed cases up here personally. I kind of like, I don't know if it's technically valid, but I kind of like that better. But whatever, we'll let PHP Storm win the day. Okay, cool. So if you do set a style, then we want to use it. If you don't, then we don't want to do anything with it. So if it's set, meaning it's not null, then we're going to go ahead and rename those methods, and this knows to work on update annotations or rename methods or whatever. And again, we may end up refactoring some of this code thinking about it, but let's start with rename methods. Okay, so theoretically we get a bunch of we get an array of methods. So we know kind of right away that we would want to loop over each of these methods as method. And ultimately, we would want to basically call, we would basically want to call either snake case or camel case on it, depending on the option that we got back. And then we would need to update that in our contents, right? So again, this is a little bit of pseudocode, but let's just go ahead and write it. So we could say something like contents equals really like a string. It's really just like an str replace. And we're going to need to find like public function whatever in this case. So this would be like assuming method. Let's just make some assumptions about what method looks like. Method name. And we would replace that with public function name, and then in contents. And we just do that for every method and then ultimately return this. So name is not set, and this is where kind of the magic would happen, is basically we would say name equals, this is where it's kind of weird. We know that if we call this method rename methods, that you're either going to be camel or snake case. So we could just kind of ternary this and say this case is equal to camel. Then we would like str camel the method name. And again, you could probably one line this down here arguably, and we may end up doing that, but let's just roll with it for now. You could probably even make this a dynamic method call, since these names match up to what the case is, but again, no reason to get fancy. I like doing that naive pass right here. So we do have access to Laravel's string helper. So there we go. If you're camel case, make sure it's camel case. If you're snake case, make sure that you pass it snake case based on the option. We replace that in the function name, and that's really all this method needs to do. So let's do the same thing for update annotations. Or well, you know what? Let's run our test. Let's see how close we are. Okay, we're not finding any methods, so of course this is not going to work in its current standing. So let's go ahead and jump to that, because I think this first fixture, yeah, is just annotations to camel case. We're not messing with the annotations yet, so let's pause, not worry about update annotations, and let's get methods working. Now I've talked before. I've talked before about how Shift a lot of the times uses the abstract syntax tree. So it'll parse out using like Nickix parser, a PHP class, and kind of figure out what's inside of it. And I do have, if you all watched, or if anyone watched that live stream before, this anonymous or remove down migration, I actually built a little bit of a method parser in here, I believe. So we find all those and we update migrations, remove down method, get file path. Yes, here it is. So I have like just a very generic method parser, which kind of maps all those methods, you know, the way they need to be. So let's kind of borrow this, and we'll go back to our test case. And what I'm going to do is build up this same methods parser and effectively wait to call it until we're inside of here. And so we basically say, hey, take that method parser, get the file contents, which we already have in this as contents, and then we're going to map it based on method names. Now we don't really need to map it in this case. What I do want to do though, what would be helpful is to only care about public methods, right? So let's go into this parser. Let's kind of see, I think it gives you like visibility, yeah, visibility, name, and it gives us the doc block as well. So this is exactly what we want. So let's instead change this to filter, and we'll filter that where basically the method visibility would need to be public. And I think you can, I don't think you have to use a closure there. I think you could just say visibility public, but I haven't been writing those very often. So, okay, we're gonna leave this because I know this works, and now we can get rid of methods. So now, just for giggles, let's just do a print R on methods, and let's see if we're getting stuff. And yes, we are. Okay, so we get on line 8, we get it uses a single line test annotation, public method, and we get that parser's kind of doc block object, which we'll be using later, but for now, this is all we care about. There's our name. So now, rename methods, argument methods must be of type array, illuminate collection provided. Okay, so we can fix that by just doing toArray. We really don't even need to use a collection here, in fairness. I mean, we could just array filter it. Yeah, let's just do that. That's starting to get a little weird. Let's just do array. Anytime I find myself just doing a very simple thing and then calling toArray and then wrapping it in a collection, while I love Laravel's collections, it just feels a little heavy is all. The map into keys was definitely worth it, but in this case, this is pretty straightforward. We're just filtering it. And then it kind of gets rid of all that silliness of like what's what. Okay, so we still get all of our output, so let's remove this kind of poor debugging there. And now we have no matching handler put file contents for no op. Ooh, I gotcha. So we don't need to put the file contents for no op. So let's just write a quick hacky check here. We'll just basically just say like, is contents, how could we flag if the contents were changed? It's like I kind of want to know like if the contents were changed, don't output the file back out. It's a little bit, that's a little bit silly. Part of me is kind of like, who cares? And the other part of me is like, well, let's just make the test pass and I can pull it out later. Okay, this is a little bit junky, but let's just do like original here. Original. Again, let's just do the naive stuff. So if original is equal to contents or contents is equal to original, whichever way you want to write that, then we'll just continue. Sweet, look at that. Okay, our tests are passing. Cool. So let's bring on another fixture. So this is going to, well, you know what? Theoretically, here's what I want to play with. Let's do just the ones that mess with case, right? Just the ones that have case options. If we're really lucky, all these will pass. Oh, we got a few of them. Which one did not pass? Format prefix snake. What's going on here? Test case with prefix and annotation. Test case with, okay, let's go look at that one. This is format prefix. Let's open up format prefix. And then this will be snake. So what we were after was test case with prefix and annotation. Let's go look at the original format prefix. test case with prefix and annotation. That should have test case with prefix. I wonder why it stopped on and annotation. I wonder why it didn't do those. It did these well. It's interesting. Let's go dump it out. Why would you not do the name correctly? Let's go to, oops, hold on, I'm hearing some stuff in the chat. Diff old output with new. Yeah, gotcha. Enjoy live stream. Yeah, thank you for joining. Okay, rename methods. It's clearly not renaming that method correctly. Am I looking at the wrong file? Maybe. Let's double check. Dataset prefix, dataset number 3 prefix. Format prefix snake. That should be the one we're after. Format prefix, yeah, it says number 3, but really it's 4, 0, 1, 2, 3. So yeah, this is the right one. Case is correct. It's actually doing, for the most part, the right thing. It's just not, it's stopping with this prefix. So I'm trying to determine, let's find out. Let's just do a var dump on name here. And it should be one of the last ones. Yeah, test case with prefix and annotation. It is not. Oh, you know what's happening? This is actually an inadvertent test case, but it's what I want. Take a look at this. Test case with prefix, test case with prefix. That very first string replace is actually hitting that prefix more than once. So we need to anchor that. We need to anchor that replacement or limit it to just one. And we can actually end up doing both. There is no limit, unfortunately, on string replace. But what we can do is we know, we can trust that, you know, just by the syntax of PHP, we can trust that there should be a closing curly, or sorry, a opening parenthesis right after that. So let's try this again. And I broke a lot of stuff now. Put file contents. Oh, I replaced it with the wrong thing. That was a bad string concatenation. It belongs on this side of that comma. There we go. If we're lucky, all these will pass and we can get rid of that silly little debugging now. Okay, cool. That was actually a really good find there. I'm glad those test cases actually had prefixes of one another because it demonstrated a nice little problem. Okay, cool. Let's bring up the annotation one now. So we should get a failure. And again, I'm just going to leave all those others on because it's driving out that class the way we want. Okay, so format annotation is going to fail. And of course, test it uses blah, blah, blah. None of these are going to match because, you know, it still is going to have the annotations in there. So let's go make this happen. What time have we got? I got about 15 more minutes. Let's see if I can get it there. Okay, so in the interest of time, I'm going to copy. And basically, we're going to say that for each method as method. And now what we're going to want to do is, let's just kind of pseudocode this out. First of all, we would want to see if method contains a doc block. Let's see here. Option equal to annotation. So if it's an annotation, we need to see if the method contains a doc block. If so, then add at test. If not, exists. All right, and then otherwise, it does have a doc block already. We basically would want to do the same thing, create doc block. Sorry, if it doesn't have a doc block, then we simply just want to create the @test doc block. So let's try to get, this one's actually removing the annotations first. This one's actually removing them first. So let's focus on the removal. So that's going to wait till later. So we'll say here that option equal prefix. Then we would want to basically do the same thing. See if that exists. See if method contains doc block. It's really needs to have the doc block @test, and then ensure method name starts with test. All right. So let's get this going. So we can just say if this option, or sorry, this style equals to prefix, then we can say if is set method, what do we call this, comment? I don't know if I'll have it in the history. Let's go back a little bit. It's probably really far up there. I was trying to get back to where we had, there they are. Here we go. Okay, so it's going to have doc block is what we called it. So if doc block is set, then this is where we would remove @test from doc block. And then we definitely would want to ensure that the method name starts with test. Okay, so we can do that part pretty quickly. So let's just say if method name starts with, so I can actually use str starts. I thought they added one. Oh, str starts with. I hate PHP Storm when it does that. It like eats your next cursor. Okay, so what's the order here? Needle haystack? I always forget. Multiple implementations. No, there are not. That's weird. Haystack needle. So haystack is name and needle is going to be test. So long as it starts with test, or doesn't start with test, then we would want to prepend test to method name. Now, here's a little bit of the tricky part. We don't know the style in which they're naming, and we also don't know which style they want. And what I mean by that is technically, since case can be null, we don't know which style they want. So we would need to match their style. So if we don't find test, we need to kind of like determine the style. And that's not going to be necessarily that hard. We just need to kind of like hack it a little bit. So ultimately we're going to end up doing this, where we string replace those contents out. But first we need to kind of determine the style. So what we can do is we can say that the prefix is equal to test. That's pretty straightforward. And all we're really going to do here is replace the method name that they currently have with the same method name, but our prefix as well. So it would be dot prefix. I hear some chats. Let me get through this one piece here. Okay, so really all we would want to do is say if this case is equal to snake, or this is null, this case, and I find an underscore in the naming. I don't think str has like an is. What's is do? Can you say like is snake? No, this is just like a wrapper for a regular expression or something. I was wondering if there was like a is, you know, snake case or something like that, but I'm not going to worry about it. I'm just going to do something real simple like str contains. And then the haystack's going to be method name. Whoops. Name. There's that keyboard displacement just a bit. There we go. Then prefix is dot equal an underscore. An underscore. All right, cool. We don't need this anymore. We should be a lot closer now except for that. So let's just kind of see where we land. Okay, so our test cases are still, or wait, no. What is this? Which one are we on? We're keeping the annotations. We're just changing the style to prefix. But that should ultimately, that should ultimately remove the annotation. So we're in a better place, I think, because of the underscores. But we're not in a good place as far as removing those. So let's do that next, and then I'll probably have to end on the live stream. Okay, cool. Alfie, thanks for sorting out my Docker Shift issue. Absolutely, yeah. Thanks for using Shift for Docker. Okay, let's get this done, and then I'll probably stop the stream there, because I think at that point we're pretty darn close. I just need to kind of then instead put the annotation back. Okay, so we know that the doc block is set, so the first thing we can do is say something like if not str contains, so we know the doc block's set, we would want to make sure to remove it. So we need to basically say, we could do a preg match first. Okay, so here's what I'm thinking. Does the, or is the doc block just at test, basically? If it's just like at the doc block for at test, then we really just want to totally remove the doc block. Otherwise, we would just remove the line that has the doc block. So I think this is a pretty simple scenario here. So we would basically just say something like, this is going to be a little bit weird though, because the way in which we remove it, you know, again, we don't want to, I guess we would want to remove this from everywhere. You know what, that's true. If you're just talking out loud here, if we set the style to prefix, we really want to remove all at test annotations anywhere. We don't even need to really test to see if this method has a doc block or not. Like it's irrelevant. We could just heavy-handedly like remove all test annotations from the class. I mean, the right thing to do would be to remove from each method, but I'm hard pressed to think of a scenario where you would want to keep the at test doc block if you're formatting these things to be prefix, a style of prefix. I don't know. I'll open it up to the comments. Let me know what you think while I get a drink. It makes life easier to just do it heavy-handedly, because otherwise I'm going to have to find the segment of the file and then kind of like remove it just there, which kind of like we saw earlier, I can do that by like anchoring it with a parenthesis or something along those lines. But I think for now, I'm just going to do something like really kind of heavy-handed like this, where it's like preg replace, and the pattern would be, this will be kind of nasty because it's like a regular expression. But yeah, I agree. I think we could just remove it all in one go. So like if you have like a slash star star, and then any amount of space, and then at test followed by any amount of space, and then the old closing slash, then just remove it from contents. Contents. And then really you could kind of do the same thing otherwise. If that doesn't catch it all, then you would want to remove anywhere that had basically a line at the start and the end of the line. Yeah, so any start of the line followed by a space, and then a literal star followed by a space, followed by @test, followed by a space. So we'd want to remove the line that had the @test annotation. And then, of course, the shorthand. Now, this doesn't really account for the longhand. Let's just try to write that one real quick. So you could have another line with a star, and then this is going to need the multi-line bit here. So yeah, we don't need to do this like every single time, but yeah, let's just kind of see where this gets us. And like I said, I'm going to be out of time, so let's see where this gets us. Okay, so it is actually removing the annotation, which is good. It's just kind of messing it up just a bit right here. I was kind of hoping that would do the right thing, but it's not going to. So really, what we need to say here is like a /r/in kind of scenario. Yeah, there we go. That keeps the data provider 1. So it's really kind of like take out that line only. What's a little bit annoying there is like you could have spaces, but yeah, I guess you could have a space behind test. That's a little ugly though. Let's not worry about that one. What I don't like about this one is it's actually keeping that extra line. I think in a nice world we would remove those. So let's see if we can fix that as well. So probably kind of like the same thing here. Any kind of space afterward we would end up getting rid of. And there we go. That takes care of it. Okay, so I think this is a good stopping point. This could probably just get moved higher because we really don't need to do it here. So let's just refactor that real fast. So basically if this style is equal to prefix, then we know that we could just blanketly remove any test case annotations anywhere in this particular bit of content. So this should not affect anything. Yeah, good, and it doesn't. So nice little refactor there. So basically all we care about is if the style's prefix and the test name doesn't start with test, then we would want to make sure we prefix it. Okay, so the next bit is basically going to do kind of the same thing in reverse. It's basically just going to say, hey, if the style is annotation, we can go ahead and write it just a little bit of this. So if it is annotation, there I go, mistyping it again. So we can, basically I bring this to life and this should be complete. Now again, it's going to have some edge cases. This is string manipulation. It's not 100% abstract syntax tree. I could definitely see some, heavy-handedness of this being a problem. But if so, we have a way through, right? And that's kind of just the way I like to code. I like to kind of do the naive approach, do the simple thing. There's no point in spending hours and hours writing more complexity to do this for each individual test annotation or doc block per method, when we know that we want to blanketly remove it, and this is probably going to work for 90% of all uses. And once someone from that 10% comes along, again, they can provide that test case, I can add it to the fixtures, I can make it pass. It's a very easy process. So, when I talk about like keep it easy, Yagni, do the simple thing, that's what I'm talking about. Like, sure, I can think of all these boundary cases of where this string manipulation isn't going to work, but you know what? I'm not worried about it because I'm armed with tests. I've got, super simple, naive code here that's easy to read, easy to manipulate. And again, it's easy to add those test fixtures to go in and drive that out. So I think this is pretty good. So hopefully I'll finish this up later this evening, and I should be able to launch this tomorrow. So look for that tweet. Again, thanks everyone for joining live. Appreciate the chat, and I'll see you all next time.